Hello, and welcome to the Theological Family Ministry Podcast, a podcast for parents as well as children and youth ministry leaders. We are dedicated to showing how theological study and biblical application relate to the discipleship of children and youth. As always, we're hosted by Pastor Ben Palaz, the pastor of family and children's discipleship at Curtis Baptist Church in Augusta, Georgia, and Tony Trusoni, the family and student pastor at Faith Family Church in Finksburg, Maryland.
Well, good morning, Ben. How are you doing today?
Doing well. Struggling a little bit with my voice, so hopefully I can push through and people can hear me. But yeah, feeling well. So how about you?
Feeling pretty well, and looking forward to crushing you this weekend after recording in our fantasy football championship.
Hey, man, don't get too ahead of yourself. I mean, that's all I got to say.
Hey, I'm in the championship in both of my leagues, so I'm pretty excited about that. I think I'm going to lose the championship in my youth group league, but I'm pretty excited about taking you down, brother.
The last time I think we played head-to-head, I think I took that one, so we'll see. Okay. Rematch time.
Yeah, you were one of my only two losses this year, you're saying?
No. The last time, I think it was a couple years ago in our league, we squared off in the championship, and I think I owned you, if I remember right.
That's right. Yeah, it wasn't even close. I remember that now. So I probably had blocked that out of my memory from some of the pain and sorrow from it. So obviously our listeners know that an extracurricular, one could say, in addition to the jobs that Ben and I do, is being in our fantasy football league that I think we probably maybe put between us an hour combined in a given week. Neither of us are that serious. But, extracurriculars is something that's especially relevant for parents, especially school-age parents and parents of high school-age kids. So before we kind of begin and look at this, I kind of want to bring up some studies about the role of extracurriculars in education today and raising up children today. So according to a recent study, the average child and youth spends about 9.6 hours from Monday to Friday on outside activities. That's not including Saturday games, which are often estimated to put the average numbers around 13 or 14, depending upon the age range of the kid. According to the Pew Research Center, 73% of that parents have a child that participates in sports or athletic activities of their school system, and 54% have children that partake in dance lessons, music lessons, or art in addition to kind of the normal routine of school. And with that there comes a great deal of cost. Parents.com reports, based on a Forbes study, that the average parent spends $739 per child on extracurricular activities. That's average. And Wow. It can go much, much higher. In fact, according to some estimates, to equip your child to succeed in the extracurricular of golf, in a way that they're able to compete with other children and youth, it frequently costs more than $5,000 a year per child to enroll and get them actively involved in this extracurricular activity.
Wow, I had no idea.
Yeah, it's fascinating. So now I want to ask you, Ben, did you participate in any extracurricular activities in school growing up?
I did. Yeah, I mean, I played baseball quite a bit. I didn't do travel ball and that kind of thing. I played for the rec, and then I played for school. Played basketball for a while. I did band for a year when I was in elementary school. I think my parents were really glad when the trumpet practice was over. I did karate for a little bit. So I did a number of different things. As I got older, it did kind of narrow down for just various reasons, and I wasn't doing as much. But yeah, how about you?
Yeah, for me, one of my extracurricular activities I think is something that will give me an edge this weekend in our battle, because I played football in high school for a couple of years, about 3 years. I didn't play my senior year, largely because of my job. So I was on the newspaper. I actually at one point appointed editor-in-chief of the newspaper at my high school. I was very involved in that, and sports journalism and film criticism, oddly. I just really enjoyed those things. And when I was little, I participated in T-ball, like pretty much every child in the 90s did. So that was the thing I, according to my parents at least, I enjoyed. But, I probably didn't participate in as much as some youth did. I wasn't able to be involved in multiple at the same time, typically, apart from when I was doing newspaper and football. And that part of the reason why was when I was in high school, I would work many hours, and even into the last couple of years of high school, when I drove, I actually would work the legal amount of hours that I could possibly work while still a high school student.
Okay, so yeah, I did stuff in the summer, cutting grass and that kind of thing, but I didn't do that. And when I was younger too, I was the only child for 10, almost 11 years, and so then there was less carting around that needed to happen. And then when my sister was young, even for until my sister was and brother, I mean, we didn't, they're halves, and so we didn't grow up in the same house, but they were in first grade when I graduated from high school, so they hadn't even really had much of a chance to develop time to get involved in some of those other things. And so anyway.
But it is amazing, with my activities in that, it's amazing how quick some of those youth money that I gathered ended up going into baseball game tickets, movie tickets, as well as a lot of fast food.
Yeah, I'm sure you weren't investing that well.
I was not. In fact, maybe it would have been better off in some extracurriculars to get a scholarship that I couldn't spend on going out to get pizza. Are extracurriculars good things or bad things, Ben, in light of kind of some of the statistics I brought up?
I mean, I think it's a little bit of both. I mean, it can be a great thing. It can be a thing that honors the Lord, that can teach a lot, and it can also be something that holds a family captive. So I think it's not a one way or the other.
I agree with you. I think it's a morally neutral thing, really, ultimately. I think that's kind of the best way to describe it, would be moral neutral. It can be a great opportunity for people to grow. There's some evidence, although I don't know if it's conclusive, that shows that that children and youth that are involved in extracurriculars do better in school, that they grow in bonding with other students, and grow in social skills in that way. But also, I think it's a very real possibility that it could be an opportunity for your child or youth, especially youth, to be an evangelistic witness to their friends and their classmates. But also, that being said, I think it can easily consume life and displace the point of school. Both in consuming life, I think it can become really something that takes over in so many ways, even in terms of how much money the parents are spending on gasoline and how often they're in the car as the family split up. But it also, I think, I've noticed school systems that have put far more of an emphasis on building press boxes on their football stadium than they have on improving academics. And I think it's a sad reality that sometimes other countries can criticize America for.
Well, you talk about just the gas prices carting around town. I mean, that's when you get into the travel stuff. This, you're traveling gas there, but then you got hotels, you got restaurants, and admission to these tournaments, and I mean, you can really rack it up from what I've heard. Yeah,
absolutely. So, why do you think children and youth participate in far more extracurriculars than past generations do? Or do you think that's the case at all?
I think to some extent, yeah. I mean, I don't have hard data on that, but I think some of it just money and options makes that a thing that people do. There's also, this desire for acceptance into colleges, elite colleges, having well-rounded resumes, and you can't just get good grades. You also have to be involved in all these activities, and the scholarships that can come along with that. And so, I mean, I think there's a little bit of a chicken and egg question at play here. Everybody is doing it, and so that just feeds the problem. But what kind of got everybody going, I'm not entirely sure. But I mean, I think there's a lot of lot of idols out there that people are chasing, things that are they're not bad in and of themselves, but it maybe have become ultimate. And parents are pursuing those, kids are pursuing those, and things we've just gotten some priorities out of line, I think.
Yeah, I think it's good. I really agree with you on that. The only thing I would really add is, to me, it seems as if parents today are less willing to say no, and I think there's a lot of evidence to show that parents are less willing to tell their child no, especially in something that they enjoy doing. I don't know that there's proof that in the past children and youth didn't want to participate in as many extracurriculars, but I'm sure I'm sure in my past even I was told no about certain activities from my parents, and if that was the case, I'm deeply grateful that was the case. Now I do want to ask you then, Ben, that, and this might seem related at first to our listeners, but we're going to get into it. What are idols?
Well, I mean, I guess just strictly speaking, it could be little statues that people worship it's a visible representation of a god, or maybe in their case they think it's actually a god, not just a representation. But it can just be anything that you're putting your hope in. You're worshiping it. You're putting your emotional energy into it. You're thinking it's going to save you somehow, and provide comfort and rest and all these kind of things. And so extracurriculars can certainly become an idol.
Yeah, I think that's right. So a definition of idolatry that I found from John Piper, I think that's really good. I actually heard this, I think years ago. He said that idols, for an idol, he was asked Pastor John, little video, and he said, it is the thing loved, or the person loved more than God, wanted more than God, desired more than God, treasured more than God, enjoyed more than God. It could be a girlfriend. It could be good grades. It could be the approval of other people. It could be success in business. It could be sexual stimulation. It could be a hobby or a musical group that you are following, or a sport or your immaculate yard. I was looking for some yard stuff the other day, and I clicked on a video ad for a yard service, and 3 people came on, and all of them made the point that this yard service enabled them to brag that they had the best yard in the neighborhood. I thought, what a motivation! I want to be number 1 in my green grass. So that could be an idol, or or your own looks could be an idol. It could be anything. So
yeah. Well-noted theologian of the past said that the human heart is an idol-making factory. So
yes, absolutely. So now, how do good things, like I think we've established, extracurriculars can be good things. At worst, they're neutral, but I think often they're good. How do good things like extracurriculars become idols?
I think it's getting our loves misordered. It's taking something that's good and making it ultimate. And again, it can be a bad thing, but often it's a good thing that becomes best, or we view it as best and ultimate. And so we're spending our time daydreaming about it, and using our financial resources and our time, all this, and it's just elevating something to a place that it really can't hold.
That's good. I put down, I think, a great way to see how these can become idols is when we value them to the neglect of our relationship with God. And I think anything in that become idols. Again, it's not just worshiping a Babylonian god. It's not being a Wiccan, mainly. That can be idolatry for sure. But also when we find who we are in them, when we find our identity in something other than God, when we find how we understand ourselves and answer the question of who am I in anything other than who we are in Christ, I think that is an idol.
That's really well said.
Now, how can extracurriculars become spiritual hindrances for both children and parents?
Well, I think kids can become focused on that thing. They can see it as ultimate. It can take time away from them considering their own soul, from ministering, serving others, and just being invested in the life of a church. I mean, assuming this is their